the cloud, and welcome to the 905er. I am flying solo for this one, folks. Roland is away on vacation, and so I thought I'd change it up a bit for this one. As longtime listeners of this podcast know, we view the 905 region in the process of change. Demographics, population, and of course development have all changed recently. We are on the cusp of transformation into what we cannot say, but nevertheless, we are changing. As the old saying goes, you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been, which is why my attention was grabbed by the Burlington Public Library's Twitter account this past week. The library announced the launching of a digital archive of Burlington's history on their website, an online trove of over 200 years of documents. A quick view of the archive shows a wealth of archival information about family histories, old maps, and planning documents, as well as the receipt of land purchase of Burlington from the Mississaugas of the Credit from way back in 1805. There's a lot of history to sift through to be uploaded, but what does this mean for Burlington's story? And what is the importance that this can play in determining how Burlington changes over time? Not to mention, how can other municipalities in the 905 copy what Burlington has done and help document their own story? To answer those questions, we reached out to the Burlington Public Library's CEO, Lita Berry, to invite her on to discuss the archive, as well as its role in helping to tell Burlington's story. As well, before we begin, I friendly ask that if you do enjoy our pod, support us CA and contributing $5 a month. As well, you can sign up for our updates so you know when each episode launches and any changes to the podcast. Now, on with the show.
You looking to make the most out of this life and optimize your personal wellness? Then check out the Natural Man Podcast. Join me, host Mike C., as we explore all areas of human wellness, physical, mental, and emotional. Learn strategies to optimize your own well-being and be in the driver's seat of your own health. Remember, your doctor works for you. Learn biohacks, neurohacks, ways to improve sleep, and ways to optimize your body and your mind. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, the Fountain app, and at naturalmanpodcast.com.
Okay, thank you to the Burlington Public Library CEO, Lita Berry, for coming on to talk about this. In my mind, is a bit revolutionary. The digital archive that the Burlington Library has put together, and rather than myself trying to bastardize the explanation of what it does, I'm going to throw it open to you, and maybe you can just enlighten our listeners about what it is that the Burlington Public Library has done here.
Thank you so much, Joel. Really appreciate your interest in our new platform. So Burlington's Digital Archive is a new online platform for Burlington Public Library, which is designed to showcase the library's local history collections in all its formats. So we have a physical local history collection at our central library. But what this platform really allows us to do is make the digitized versions of our collection more accessible and more broadly, not only to residents of Burlington, but really around the world. So the archive includes a range of collections. I think some that are most probably of interest to some of your listeners would be maps of the city of Burlington. So we've digitized a number of maps. We have family collections, photographic collections, all sorts of rich historical resources that really help to paint the picture of Burlington's history. And so appreciate your enthusiasm for the product. We are excited. We think it's pretty revolutionary for us. There are a number of public libraries and archives that have sort of been in this space, but we had an older piece of software that we've been using for a number of years that really just wasn't very friendly for our users and really didn't showcase our collections. So to be able to move to this new platform that's going to allow us to do both of those things a lot better, I think will be very revolutionary in the sense that it'll help us connect the content with our users, which is really what we're all about.
Yeah, I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to our past episodes, but a running theme on this podcast is the changing nature of the 905 region, and that the 905 has been changing from kind of that quiet commuter suburb of everyone going in, parking their cars and going into Toronto, and that's the quiet suburb, that the 905 region is changing into something. I don't know what, but we've seen every city in the 905 seems to be in the process of some kind of change. And the reason why this caught my eye is the old saying, we can't know where we're going if we don't know where we've been.
Absolutely.
And so I'm just wondering, how important was it for you, your team at the Burlington Library, to take this on yourself to say this is Burlington's story, this is how Burlington came to be, as opposed to I know some other municipalities have let other organizations do some kind of digitized archival work, but you guys took it upon yourselves. I'm wondering what was the importance of you guys doing that as opposed to letting a third party do that for you?
Yeah, that's a great question, Joel. I think for us, we recognized that this was material that we already had in our possession. So last year, Burlington Public Library celebrated 150 years of service to the community. So over that time, people have entrusted collections to us that have value in terms of local history. So when we really reflected on our responsibility in terms of stewarding those donations and that commitment to the library, and very much as you were talking about, sort of that storytelling of what does the story of our past tell us, and our shelves are full of so many stories, but to really be able to focus on Burlington stories and some of the material that we had in our possession, we just recognized that it wasn't very accessible. People would come in and research in the room, but that's just such a finite number of the population that can come in to do that, and to make that so much more widely available. We work in partnership. So actually on the archive, it's a partnership with the city of Burlington, with the municipality. They are one of the repository holders along with the Burlington Historical Society. So, citizens of Burlington have such pride in their community, and very much as the 905er audience sort of listens to, like what that pride is all about in terms of pride of place and the communities that we choose to live in. And to be able to share some slices of Burlington's history with residents to kind of build out, as you say, those stories and those pictures of the past that really help to shape the Burlington that we see today. And if I think of some of our collections, like the map collection, you can see we have a number of maps from the planning department of the city of Burlington. You can literally see the city grow and evolve.
Well, on that note, I do want to point to our listeners. One of the things that we talked about is the Truth and Reconciliation in the area. And what I thought was interesting is one of the first maps that you have on this archive is essentially the bill of sale of Burlington, the plot of land that would become kind of downtown Burlington, or that area of Burlington, from the Mississauga of the Credit.
Yes.
Nations.
Yeah.
And we keep hearing about like land claims and the bit. And it's kind of interesting to see, like that's kind of the birth of Burlington, is that bill of sale of the land from the Mississaugas. And
to be able to share that sort of documentary heritage that demonstrates that part of that, very complex story, I think we really wanted to ground that collection in sort of how the community evolved and grew, and to be able to give that. And I believe that map dates to about 1805. So to be able to give the community access to 200 years of history, to see how from those very early days Burlington has grown and metamorphosized and evolved, I think to your point really speaks to that story. And as people try and imagine what the future is, or what it means to be a resident of Burlington today, or a resident of the 905, as you alluded to look back to understand the present, and then also understand the future, is something that we really hope that greater access to this collection helps to enable some of those conversations and those stories.
Well, I do hope that people who are listening to this episode do take the time, and we'll include a link to it in our show notes for our listeners. But it's fascinating to me Because a theme that we talk about is the development that's been going on in Burlington and the 905. That we need. The fact is, we need housing, we need places to live and to grow and to be a city and a community. I'm not going to let you ask for your opinion on that, but I do find it's interesting is that the naysayers, we're going to lose part of what was Burlington if we allow this development to happen, or if we allow this part of the city to change. And I find it's interesting as if we go into this digital archive, you can see like Burlington has always been changing. There's always been that new part, that new development, I mean, if you look at that, going back to that map of 1805, the sale, you can see Burlington, you can see like the boundaries of Burlington, but it's not Burlington. It's just a plot of land. And I find that my imagination starts running when I see that, because I think of the kind of discussion that we're having now. It's like, oh, we're going to lose something. So maybe we're also going to gain something if we do this right.
Absolutely. That change, I think, and they always say a picture is worth 1,000 words. If you are, to be able to look at some of these images, and as you highlight that change really is constant, but that there are some human values that also sort of remain the same. So, this new platform has much stronger search capabilities. So to search a word like the beach or Spencer Smith Park, and to be able to see images that date back over 100 years of people walking what was then called the promenade of Spencer Smith Park, and the things that have attracted people to live in Burlington, some of those carry on through the generations, and what they might look like has changed over time, but the human element that draws people to the parks and the beaches and those shopping strips is really timeless. And to be able to walk through history and see that, I think really speaks to your point in terms of, again, I am not a planner, so I won't speak to the planning of, as much as there are concerns about communities growing and changing, that with that change, there's an opportunity to learn and grow and bring carry those quality of life pieces that people in the 905 value so much forward, and to not lose sight of them, and to really center them in the discussion. And I think projects like the Burlington Digital Archive really give people a means to do that, in terms of seeing how timeless some of those community priorities truly are.
How important, I guess, was it to you and the city to do this kind of in-house, to make sure that this, because I presume as the archive grows, as people find other paraphernalia in their family history, and they might say they want to turn it over to the library for this archive, how important was it to say that you keep it in-house, that this is Burlington's story, and that your success, whoever he or she may be, a generation down the road, continues this archival documentation of Burlington's development and change?
Yeah, that's a great question. We absolutely, there's a number of initiatives in the province and in the archival community that look at these collections more broadly, and we didn't want to lose sight of that. So even with the platform that we selected, the way that we are describing the work, and we actually feed into the province's Archeon platform, which is a provincial archive. So what we're really trying to do is sort of a bit of that best of both worlds, of participate in the broader archival community, but then be able to kind of create an entry point for people who are particularly interested and committed to the community of Burlington, to be able to see that story through that lens as opposed to the broader one. So we haven't sort of excluded that bigger dialogue, but we've chosen to focus on it. And as a public library, so much of our mandate is serving the needs of the community that we serve, both in the present and going forward. And as I mentioned, just that pride of place that we know is so strong in Burlington felt like there was a wonderful opportunity for us to showcase that through this Burlington Digital Archive and just to create connections. One of the deciding factors for this platform is that it was going to allow us to better curate the collections, to create sort of virtual exhibits so that, as you mentioned, I encourage everyone to sort of take a look and explore, but we're also over time going to be helping bring items to the fore by making, virtual exhibitions available that will point people to some things that they might not have stumbled up across on their own, and help to tell that story as well.
Well, I think that's kind of the benefit of doing it in-house, is that you don't lose that ability to kind of manipulate or find those threads as they are in the material, because that's the thing, is people kind of go through and they explore it on their own. They might find stories that weren't up front initially. There were, it's just, and I think it is important for us to be able to own and tell our own stories on our own terms.
Absolutely.
I don't know if there are any other cities that you modeled this on. Like, do you know of any other Ontario cities? I cannot find any a note that
definitely there's some. I think, as you've referenced, even in just talking about the 905, of how unique all of those different communities are. So I think in some cases, I know some other 905 communities that are embarking on some of this work. I know Hamilton has an extremely large local history collection, and even communities such as Brantford. But yeah, I think what we've chosen to do is really focus on what we had that was specific to Burlington, and we have some great historical partners in the community in terms of the museum and the Burlington Historical Society. And when we looked at what we thought we could offer to the community that would help amplify that history and give us a platform where we could collaborate with those organizations more effectively, because one of the many missing pieces was really a software that would allow us to do that in a really accessible way. I think we've so normalized the internet as something that's so pervasive and that we access all the time. The reality with some of this archival material is it's actually a bit daunting to make it available online. We have the collection of city directories. Most of the city directories are over 900 pages in length. So to have a software platform that's able to search that content and present it to the end user in short order, because we're all used to Google presenting something to us immediately, is a little bit of technology that's been a bit in the making in terms of just recognizing. One of the great things about this platform is any content that we've OCR'd, so that has the we have the full transcript for. So, some of this archival material, the type is so small, it would be hard for people to read the content. This software allows us to extract transcription about it that's going to make it so much more accessible. So when we thought about the library's role in the community, our role is really about connecting people with information in an accessible way. And this platform is really going to help us be able to do it as it relates to our local history collections. And as you alluded to, we know we have a number of resources, that we have a lot in the collections still left to digitize. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but we also know that there are other people in the community that might have some treasures in their basement that they've been holding on to, looking for a way to share. And this, platform and process is going to give us an opportunity to have some conversations with those residents about potentially donating and what that might look like in terms of how we could digitize elements of their stories as well.
Well, it's incredibly powerful, especially when you get into the more, I dare say, probably the more fragile photographs and the documentations from the beginning of Burlington that, quite frankly, even if you are a casual researcher, I can't imagine probably having to go in and schedule a date and time and a window
Absolutely.
to view it. But then even still, once you're viewing it, to say, like, handle with the most utmost of care to preserve this eliminates all of that. It's right there,
Yes.
literally at the click of a button. You type, as you said, you type in the parameters of your search, and you're able to do in seconds what might have taken
What would
you
have been
hours.
like a very laborious
Yes.
research, and not be able to sort of take that away with you too. So feel for all of those folks who are researching their house or doing a family history, for them to be able to download copies of that content and use it in terms of fair use for their own personal research is something that we know is going to be a wonderful asset.
Now, as this is going to go out, there'll be other people from other parts of the 905 listening, and they might be wondering if their local library has a similar venture. I wonder. I know that not every other municipality in the 905 has done what you've done, and for various reasons. But I wonder if you could, if somebody's listening, and they're saying, "Well, should my municipal government go down this route?" What would you say to them? What do you say is the importance of preserving and documenting an archive in this manner?
Oh, absolutely. I would say for any of your listeners, if they're interested, to first just check and ask in their community. It could be that their public library has a similar resource. We've been so I think timing is everything in terms of some of these conversations, and with it being the city of Burlington's 150th, our launch of this updated platform is really just resonated with people, which is so exciting. But I would encourage people to start by asking, because there a number of communities may have an existing resource that they're using, and it might be through their museum, it might be through their library, or they might be have an archival association, and then from there, if they figure out who's sort of working in that space, see what the priorities of those organizations are, and how they can access the material that they're looking for, and just highlighting that there's interest. I think there are so many competing priorities that so many organizations are facing. Just knowing that people are interested in this material and wanting to explore it is really helpful for libraries to know in terms of putting those priorities forward. But I would start by just suggesting to everyone to ask, because you might be pleasantly surprised that your library has something that you didn't know existed. So hopefully a lot of people will have that experience.
Absolutely. And I hope that they do. And I hope that if there's not a formal organization, maybe that sparks a conversation for the various associations and not-for-profits out there to help document this. Because this is me editorializing, but I do think it's important for a community to have its own history documented, as opposed to having somebody else do it for you. Because again, once you know kind of where you've been, it's easy to make a plan on where you want to go forward.
Absolutely.
I know that your time is busy and valuable, so I want to thank you very much for taking the time to come on to the podcast. What's next for the archive? Is there big plans, or we're going to see different material pop up in the next year? Is stuff waiting to be unveiled?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely our priority has been getting the platform live, but now that that's live, we're looking to continue to add content. So digitize more and more of our ephemera and our picture collections. We're currently working with, we have a student intern who is processing former mayor of Burlington, Rolly Bird, donated his personal archive a number of years ago. So we're in the process of processing that, and I'll be digitizing some of those items to add to the collection. So
I guess the question is, how much material do you have in the archive to digitize then?
We have, in terms of number of items, I'd say we have a smaller archive. It's really the work that we do in partnership. So Burlington Historical Society has many, many photos that we assist them in digitizing. And then for the library's own collection, it's going through, so for the archival phone that we have, figuring out sort of what the priorities are from a digitization standpoint. So not necessarily are we going to digitize everything that would be in a particular collection, but trying to digitize some of those key items so that people can discover the collection. And then for those researchers wanting to go more in depth, that they can access some of the material. We're also working with Tourstar, hoping to provide access to some of the community's historical newspapers as well, which would be something that we know many would really cherish, because those local newspapers are such a wealth of information in terms of years gone past, of what was very much what you spoke to in terms of that history of the community and what was happening and what was going on and what were people prioritizing. So we've got lots of different conversations in play. And definitely are not going to run out of content to add to the platform. That's for sure.
Very good. Well, thank you very much, Alita Berry, for coming on to the podcast today. Very exciting to see this happen and to Burlington to have access to its history in such a comprehensive way. Thank you very much for the work that you're doing, and thank you very much for taking the time to come on to the 905er.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about it. Appreciate it, Joel.
That's it for this episode of the 905er. Thank you for listening. As always, you can send us your feedback, thoughts, and concerns or ideas for future episodes to our email, info@905er.ca. We'd love to hear from you. You can help us keep the 905er going by financially supporting us through Patreon as well as PayPal. Visit us at 905er.ca and click on the support tab. As well, links are in the show notes for your convenience. Lastly, you can find us on social media. Search for _905er on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So long for now. See you next time.